She texted me the word divorce from a business conference across the country. Not a call, not a conversation, just one word. And by the time I checked our account, she had already drained the retirement fund we built together for 20 years. My name was gone from everything but the pain. I didn't see it coming, or maybe I did. Maybe I just didn't want to. I kept telling myself that loyalty would be enough. That if I just stayed consistent, if I just kept showing up, even when she didn't see me one day, she would. But love isn't always about how hard you try. Sometimes it's about how blind you are to the fact that someone stopped choosing you a long time ago. Looking back, there were signs. Little things that piled up like dust in the corners of a room you no longer clean because you've convinced yourself it's still your home. She stopped saying, "Thank you." Stopped noticing the way I'd make her coffee the same way every morning. I gave up things, small dreams, habits, parts of myself, because I thought that's what commitment meant. But commitment without reciprocation, that's not love, that's slow erosion. I remember one night she was sitting on the edge of our bed, scrolling through her phone. I was talking about my work stress, budget cuts, long hours, losing sleep, and she nodded without hearing a single word. Her eyes never left the screen. That moment stuck with me, not because of what she did, but because of what I didn't do. I didn't stop talking. I didn't walk away. I just accepted it. That was the beginning of the silence between us. Not loud, not explosive, just cold, quiet. The thing people don't tell you is that the most painful betrayals aren't always the loud ones. They're the soft ones. The ones that sneak in quietly while you're still trying to believe the best about someone. And by the time you realize what's happened, you've already compromised too much of yourself to easily find your way back. I thought consistency would matter. I thought being the reliable one, the provider, the protector would count for something. But it turns out being consistent in someone's life too long without appreciation just turns you into background noise. Something they assume will always be there. Something they stop looking at. And that's where it broke me. Not because she left, but because somewhere deep down, I had already left myself long before she did. That's the part I can't shake, that I let it happen, that I tolerated the slow fade because I believed endurance would somehow equal love. But love that requires you to disappear to be sustained. That's not love, that's martyrdom. And I wore it like a badge of honor until it shattered me. You don't realize how much of yourself you've given away until you're standing in the ashes of what used to be a life built for two. And you're the only one left holding the blueprint. That's the beginning of every man's breaking point, not the loud crash, the quiet realization that no one's coming to save you, that the very person you thought would guard your heart was the one who quietly dropped it. And I'll be honest, it gutted me. Not just emotionally, financially. I was let go 2 months later. Downsizing, they said. But I knew I'd already stopped fighting. I stopped showing up fully. Because how do you focus on sales metrics when your world's been pulled from under you? They hit me back to back. My wife, my job, my savings all gone in a season I didn't see coming. That was the collapse. That was the moment I realized this world doesn't owe me anything. And maybe I didn't owe it anything either. But I owed something to myself. I owed myself a new beginning. And that's where everything started to change. Quietly, painfully, but also intentionally. I stopped talking. Not to punish her. Not to get even. I just stopped. Something inside me went quiet. And in that silence, I finally started to hear myself again. It's strange, isn't it? How you can spend years trying to be seen, trying to be heard, trying to matter to someone who never really tried to understand you in the first place. And then one day, without warning, you run out of words. Not because you don't care anymore, but because you finally realized you were never being listened to. That silence, it wasn't empty. It was heavy. It was full of all the things I hadn't said, the things I swallowed, the boundaries I never set, the feelings I minimized, all the nights I sat beside someone who made me feel more alone than when I was by myself. But silence is powerful. Most people underestimate it. They think it's weakness, that when a man goes quiet, he's broken. But the truth is, silence is where the rebuild begins, she noticed. Not right away, but eventually. When the texts weren't answered so quickly, when I stopped asking how her day was, when the just checking in messages stopped arriving, the silence unsettled her. Because for the first time, I wasn't offering my emotions on a silver platter. I wasn't available. I wasn't desperate to be seen. That's when the power started shifting, not in an arrogant way, but in a sacred one. I wasn't trying to hurt her, I was trying to heal me, and healing requires distance, space, detachment, because no one can hear their own soul when they're drowning in someone else's indifference. It was in the silence that I finally remembered something I hadn't felt in years: dignity. The kind that doesn't beg, the kind that doesn't explain, the kind that stands tall without shouting. It was hard at first. Every part of me wanted to reach back out, to explain, to clarify, to fix what was broken. But I had to remind myself, you don't fix what broke you by running back to it. You rebuild from the rubble. You rise from the wreckage. And when I looked around, I realized something else. She was expecting me to fall apart, but I didn't. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't holding on to her. I was holding on to me. This wasn't the end of the story. It was the awakening, and it started with a whisper. Not to the world, but to myself. You owe it to you now. There's a moment in every relationship where things shift, where gratitude turns to entitlement, where your presence stops being a gift and starts being expected. And here's the truth no one talks about. That shift is where the game begins. She didn't even realize it. That subtle change in how she looked at me, how she responded. I used to get a smile, a thank you, a soft glance in the kitchen. Now just silence, disinterest. Eye contact turned into screen time, presence turned into routine. But that's the problem: when you give everything too consistently, it becomes invisible. I thought love meant always being there, showing up, proving I was the kind of man who never left. But what I didn't realize is that in some relationships, the more reliable you are, the more dispensable you become. It's twisted, but it's true. People don't chase what's guaranteed. They chase what challenges them. And here's the part that cut the deepest. She didn't chase me, not even when I started slipping away. Because somewhere in her mind, I was already categorized safe, predictable, always there. She never had to fight for me, because I never let her feel what it was like to lose me, until I went silent. That silence. That was the first play I ever made. And it wasn't manipulation, it was survival. Because I had played the loyal fool for too long. Always giving, always fixing, always available, and for what? To be treated like a background character in a life I helped build no more. People think emotional power comes from shouting, arguing, confronting. It doesn't. Real power is restraint. It's emotional discipline. It's the ability to step back and let your absence speak volumes. That's when they start to feel it, the weight of you not being there. The space you once filled with presence, attention, care. Now hollow. And she felt it. I know she did. The late night text, the sudden just checking in, the voice message with a soft tone that used to be sharp. She was reaching, but not because she missed me. Not really. She missed the version of me that made her feel adored. The one that kept the emotional economy flowing in her favor. But I wasn't there to invest anymore. You see, there's a power play in love, and most men don't even know they're playing it. They think being kind, generous, available will earn them love. But what it earns is predictability. And predictability in the wrong hands breeds contempt. I had to learn that the hard way, that women don't always want the man who chases. They remember the man who walks away and doesn't come back. It's not about being cruel, it's about being clear. When your value isn't seen, your silence becomes the announcement. When your effort is taken for granted, your absence becomes the punishment. And when your love is misused, your distance becomes the lesson. I didn't need to win her back. I needed to win myself back. So I stopped responding. I stopped explaining. I let her sit with the version of me she helped create. And in doing so, I reclaimed something I had lost in the process of loving her: leverage. And leverage isn't about power over her. It's about power over yourself. It's when you finally understand this truth, you don't chase what walks away from you. You build what refuses to be broken again. The hardest part wasn't losing her. It was facing the mirror afterward, not the physical one, but the kind that reflects who you became while trying to hold everything together. The mirror that doesn't lie, the one that shows you the man you've been shrinking into, slowly, quietly, all in the name of love. That's where I found myself staring into the version of me that had tolerated too much, stayed too long, sacrificed too deeply. And I wasn't proud of him. He wasn't weak, but he had forgotten his worth. He had traded his edge for acceptance. He had given up territory in his soul for the illusion of peace. I saw the man who dimmed his voice to keep her calm, who stopped asking for what he needed because her comfort mattered more than his clarity. The man who bent so often he forgot what it felt like to stand tall. And it hit me no one was coming to rescue that man. No one but me. This is where men break. Right here. Not when they lose the woman, but when they realize how much of themselves they lost trying to keep her. That realization, it cuts, but it also cleanses. So, I got honest. Brutally honest. I started asking questions I used to avoid. Why did I tolerate being invisible? Why did I let myself be the only one showing up? Why was I so afraid of being alone that I stayed in something that made me feel more lonely than solitude ever could? The answers weren't pretty, but they were necessary. I had confused sacrifice with self-erasure. I thought being dependable meant being silent, that if I could just hold on long enough she'd see, she'd understand, she'd love me like I loved her. But love that demands you disappear to survive isn't love, it's slow suicide. So I started rebuilding, brick by brick, boundary by boundary. I started with the mornings, no phone, no thinking about what she might be doing, who she might be with. Just breath, just coffee, just stillness. Then came the journaling, not for healing her absence, but for finding my presence, writing down what I had forgotten to say to myself. I went back to the gym, not for revenge, not for a glow-up she'd regret, but for me. To remember what power feels like in your chest, not just your words. And that's when something shifted. I didn't need her validation anymore. I didn't need her to look back and regret. I didn't even need an apology. I needed to forgive the version of me that kept choosing her over me, because that's what reconstruction is. Not revenge, not making her jealous, not waiting for karma. It's meeting yourself again after years of neglect and saying, I remember you. And I'm not abandoning you this time. I looked in the mirror again weeks later, and what I saw wasn't the broken man she left behind. It was the man she didn't stay long enough to meet. And that man, he doesn't beg.